This week on Art in the Air features ceramic pot artisan Kate Tremel, whose work with mixed media produces inspiring vessels for everyday use. Next, we have Michigan City's Music Festival Nick and Sunny Orb-O-vich discussing their collaboration with Paladin's Melissa Bohacek. Our spotlight is on Chesterton Art Center's summer camps and classes with Program Director Jillian Bridgeman.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart.
Welcome. You're listening to Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM and WVLP 103.1 FM, our weekly program covering the arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. I'm Larry Breckner of New Perspectives Photography, right alongside here with Esther Golden of The Nest in Michigan City.
Aloha, everyone.
We're your hosts for Art on the Air. Art on the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project Grant through South Shore Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. Art on the Air is heard Friday at 11 a.m. and Monday at 5 p.m. on WVLP 103.1 FM, streaming at wvlp.org, and every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM, also streaming live at lakeshorepublicradio.org, and is available on Lakeshore Public Radio's website as a podcast. Our spotlight interviews are also heard Wednesdays on Lakeshore Public Radio. Information about Art on the Air is available on our website, breck.com/AOTA. That includes a complete show archive, spotlight interviews, plus our shows are available on multiple podcast platforms, including NPR One. Please like us on Facebook, Art on the Air, WVLP, for more information about upcoming shows and interviews. We'd like to welcome back to Art in the Air Spotlight from the Chesterton Arts Center. She's the program director and has a whole bunch of things coming up, especially like summer camps and classes that we're talking about. Jillian Bridgeman, welcome back to Art in the Air Spotlight.
Aloha.
Hey, thank you for having me again.
Well, it looks like you have a whole bunch of things coming up in the schedule, and by way of disclosure, I'm also on the board for Chesterton Arts Center, but that really doesn't matter because you have a whole bunch of things going on. I'll tell you, over the last several years, we've seen such a great improvement in the types and the breadth of the programs we offer. But go ahead and tell us about the summer camps and what else you have going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited to announce that we now have 7 weeks of summer art camp happening this year. So it's an increase over the past kind of 2 years. We've been gradually building it up. Each camp is going to highlight various art techniques and media. There's going to be discussions about modern artists, and each one kind of has its own unique theme that'll direct the fine art project students will take home at the end of their week. Each camp is offered to 2 age groups. There's ages 5 to 9 in the morning from 8:30 to 11. And ages 10 and up in the afternoon from 12 to 2:30. There are 2 camps that are an exception to this just because of the media that's being used. We had to raise the age just a little bit. So the Creating with Clay and Makers and Thinkers camp are the only exceptions with ages 9 to 12 in the morning and 13 and up in the afternoon. Tuition cost for this ranges from $120 to $140, just depending on the camp session. And of course, if you have an active CAC family membership status with us, you'll receive your 10% discount off of that amount. We do have scholarships available for all students. So if you're interested in applying for a scholarship, applications can be found on our website at chestertonart.org/scholarships. I'll do a quick little run through just to give you an idea of the different topics that we're going to highlight this summer throughout those 7 weeks. Our first week is June 5th through 8th. It's going to be Discover the Dunes. And during this week, kids are going to focus on all things dunes and really focus on the media of painting as they learn about local artist Frank Dudley, whose landscape works inspired dunes conservation in our area. The second week is June 12th through 15th, and this topic is animals around us. So students are going to hone their drawing skills and learn painting techniques as they create artwork about birds, amphibians, and other local critters that we see here in the Duneland area. Third week is June 19th to the 22nd. This is the Summer of Superheroes. So students will make art inspired by their favorite superheroes and discuss how visual storytelling plays a role in these movies that they watch. There's going to be a wide range of media for this week, anything from drawing to illustration to painting and mixed media as well. In our next week, we have June 26th through 30th. This is creating with clay. So students are going to learn basic skills of working with clay as they explore hand building techniques, surface decoration, and enjoy a wheel throwing experience. The week after that is July 10th through 13th. This is World of Mario, where students will study the magical world of Mario as they create stylized projects in drawing, painting, and building all the way to Bowser's Castle. July 17th through 20th is Exploring Marine Life as students get to draw sea turtles, sharks, whales, dolphins, and all types of tropical fish as they learn about our underwater world. The final week is July 24th through 28th, and this one is titled Makers and Thinkers. So students will explore three-dimensional art forms during this sculpture-based camp as they work with paper mache, construct a movable art piece, and experiment with additional 3D media. So we have lots of fun topics throughout those 7 weeks. Hopefully there's something for everybody to kind of spark your creative interests.
What is the teen group doing these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So our Teen Arts Group, or TAG, they just did a really exciting exhibition over at Red Cup Cafe that just launched earlier in February. It's up through the end of March, so it'll come down March 30th. So you have plenty of time to go and see their beautiful artwork on display over at Red Cup Cafe in downtown Chesterton. This spring, we're doing a really exciting public art project in partnership with Chesterton Park, just about a block from where we're located. So we're kind of in the planning stage of that right now, and we're kind of eager to see where the kids' ideas take them in terms of what we're going to be creating. But it'll be some type of weaving project in the fencing over there at the park.
How many kids do you have in the Teen Arts Group, and where are they all from?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently I have about 13 to 14 active participating kids. So it's been a really great group and great growth, especially in these last couple months. The kids do a great job of kind of incorporating their friends into the group. So that really helps us build it up. And we have kids from currently about 4 different schools. I have kids from Portage, I have kids from Chesterton, kids from Valpo, and then we have 1 kid from South Central. So it's a really good mix right now, and we're hoping to always obviously grow that more and more.
The adult class is looking like?
Yeah, absolutely. So adult classes are doing great this spring. We have kind of something for everyone. There's classes in watercolor. We have drawing classes, colored pencil classes, printmaking, ceramics, stained glass fusing, photography. So again, something for everybody. You just got to check out our website at chestertonart.org. If you go to the classes tab, you can go into the adult page and kind of see that full roster that I just went through.
And outside of the programs, you also have some things coming up like the gala. Tell us just a little bit about that. And I think it's coming up in May.
Absolutely. So our gala theme this year is Shine. It's all about kind of celebrating the great growth that we've seen here at the center, especially in the past year, and celebrating kind of all the people that helped make that possible. It's going to be happening on Saturday, May 6th. You can purchase your tickets or your table, if you prefer, up on our website. Again, that's chestertonart.org.
And then there's still signups going on for the art fair. That's in August 5th and 6th. Tell us about that process real briefly in our last minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have applications open. They opened up in January, and those are open through the end of April. So if you're a local artist and you want a good opportunity to come and show your work and sell with us, the application is also on our website. It kind of walks you through giving us some photo examples of work that you make, what you're interested in terms of media, and it's another great opportunity for local artists and beyond.
Very good. Well, we appreciate you coming on Art on the Air. Just give us a quick website information and contact information, Jillian.
Absolutely. So again, our website is chestertonart.org. If you have any direct questions, you can email me at programs, that's programs, at chestertonart.org, and I'll be happy to help you out as well.
And that's Jillian Bridgeman, Program Director there at Chesterton Art Center. Thank you so much for being on Art on the Air Spotlight.
Thank you, Jillian.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Art on the Air Spotlight and the full 1-hour Art on the Air program on Lakeshore Public Radio is brought to you by Macaulay Real Estate in Valparaiso, Olga Patrician, Senior Broker. And as a reminder, if you'd like to have your event on Art on the Air Spotlight or have a longer feature interview, email us at AOTA@brech.com. That's AOTA@brech.com. You're listening to Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM, and on WVLP 103.1 FM.
We are pleased to welcome Kate Tremel to Art on the Air. Kate has had a dynamic, almost 40 years working in clay so far. Her studies included Spanish and anthropology, which has led her to studying and participating in residencies around the world. In Peru, she learned her paddle and stone technique. Kate is a lecturer and ceramics instructor throughout the country as well as internationally. All that plus maintaining a vibrant personal art practice, exhibiting her exquisite work. Thank you, Kate, for joining Larry and I on Art on the Air. Aloha and welcome. It is very nice to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is such a pleasure.
We're so excited to have you on board. And our audience always wants to find out more about our guests. I always call it their origin story. And so we'd like to ask yours, how you got from where you were to where you are now. So tell us about Kate.
Well, it's funny. My mother tells this story about how when I was in Montessori school, I used to make turtles out of clay and try to sell them to the other children. But I don't remember this. I don't remember this at all. But, it's interesting. My parents really only did a little bit of college, and they were always so supportive of all of three of their children to kind of pursuing what they were interested in. And both my sister and I are visual artists, and my brother is a car mechanic. He restores old cars. So we're all kind of artists, I think, in our own way.
Very much.
But my dad was a businessman, and he always would encourage me to go to business school and things when I was in college. But he really kind of, always supported whatever I did, I think. So, as a kid growing up, I played a lot of sports, and it's been interesting in preparation for this interview, thinking a little bit about, my early childhood and experiences in high school. I think, I went to a high school in Atlanta, Georgia, the Lovett School, and I think I did a lot of art there, and I never really realized it. I think, photography and printmaking and painting and weaving textiles and clay. So it was probably really my first deeper dive into clay was there. And then before I went on to college, I did a gap year at an English boarding school as part of an exchange program scholarship that I received at the St. Helens School in Middlesex, England. And as part of this program, I was able to take some pottery classes with some of the elementary school kids. It wasn't something that anyone my age did, but I remember having such a positive experience in my high school classes that I really wanted to learn and continue to learn how to throw. And so I worked on the pottery wheel there while I was a student, over the course of that year, and really enjoyed it. But, it was always something I thought of as a avocation. I went then to college the next year to Middlebury College in Middlebury, Vermont. And I was really interested in speaking Spanish because I had I had also gone to another school in Indiana, actually, to the Culver Girls Academy. And there I met kids, from around the world. I grew up in a kind of very white suburb of Atlanta where there really was no diversity. There were only a couple of African-American kids in our class. And one of the things I really enjoyed about the 2 years that I was at Culver in a boarding school was just hanging out and talking with the other kids in Spanish, which I had been learning. And so I wanted to continue my studies in Spanish at Middlebury. And so I did that. And then I also studied anthropology and sociology, which was one department there. And Middlebury is kind of famous for its language programs. And so they really encourage students to study abroad. And this was in the early 80s. And all of the programs that they had were sponsored by Middlebury faculty in Middlebury's college. And so they had schools abroad. But I really wanted to try to go to Latin America. And so
Hey, what was your goal? What was your thinking when you did Spanish and anthropology? What were you looking to do with it at that time?
I don't know if I thought about it in so many words, but, I think I had taken like introduction to social, sociology in high school. And I really, was interested in just people and people around the world. And I did another thing when I was in college, like my first, I think it was maybe the first summer after my freshman year in college. I did a volunteer program that I saw in a Newsweek for college students that was, stuffed in our mailboxes for free. And it was to work with a group called Amigos de las Americas, and they did volunteer work in Latin America. And so, that was the first time I'd lived in a foreign country. And so I spent the summer building latrines and living with Mexican families. And it really was kind of transformative, just being able to communicate in another language. It was almost like acting like you could have another personality or something. I think it really appealed to me, and just connecting with people who were so different than I was. So I think that was really the most formative experience. And then I went back the second summer as kind of staff and helped organize the volunteers into different communities. And we worked with the Ministry of Health at that time. This was in the mid 80s. And so it was kind of gelling together, this sort of moving down a path of maybe doing some kind of development work or some kind of, social service work, but traveling. I really enjoyed the traveling. And then I decided to go ahead and do that study abroad year in Peru as a kind of culmination of these studies, at Middlebury. So, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit.
No. And is that
great.
where you got your hands in clay? Dedicatedly in Peru?
Well, it was a little bit before then. As I was my first 2 years at Middlebury, my roommate took a pottery class at the local community arts center, and I was really jealous because they didn't have ceramics at Middlebury College, and it never occurred to me to study art in any way. But I really did like the clay work that I had done. It's just so seductive, it kind of grabs you. And so I decided to sign up for a pottery class my sophomore year too. So I started taking classes at the Vermont State Craft Center in Middlebury, Vermont, with Bob Green, who was one of my first teachers. And so after my second summer in Mexico, my friend who I was working with was changing colleges, and I just sort of decided I would think about it too, maybe, and wasn't sure that I wanted to continue down this path of Spanish anthropology or whether I delve into doing more development-oriented work. And I just took the semester off. And during that semester, I worked in clay pretty much all the time, taking pottery classes, and then I had a day job as a construction worker, moving rocks.
Well, you need to be strong to work in clay. So
yeah. So I looked for a program. I took some time off, and then I took in the spring semester. I did a semester long course with the National Outdoor Leadership School out of Lander, Wyoming, where we were climbing and hiking and kayaking and caving and doing all different kinds of outdoor activities. And I just was kind of reflecting on what I wanted to do. So I went on this exchange program in Peru because it allowed you to organize an internship. So I thought it would be a really cool way for me to find someone that I could do ceramics work with, but then also continue down my sociology, anthropology major. And I was lucky enough to get credit for working in the ceramic studio for my Spanish major at that time. But it was a really great program. There were only 3 of us, so I really didn't hang out with a lot of other Americans, and I took classes at the Catholic University in Lima, and I asked around for anyone working in what would be kind of more traditionally oriented ceramics, someone who had, some experience with the amazing history of ceramics in Peru. Despite its long, rich, and diverse history, there wasn't that much contemporary ceramics happening, but everyone referred me to an artist named Jose Luis Yamunake, and he had a studio where he invited people who were hobbyists to take classes, and there were also kind of a core group of students from the Fine Arts University who really were interested in ceramics, but there was really no clay offered at the Fine Arts University either. They did have one class at the Catholic University, which I took, which was really a design class. And we used clay to make some simple kind of designed objects. But the clay was so bad, we were just kind of taking clay that had been mined and, cleaned for industrial production, but just one clay out of the bag, not mixing it, with anything else. And it was just really difficult to mix it the way the instructor had us do. I think we spent like 3 full class periods mixing our clay.
Wow.
But that studio turned out to be a really vibrant community there at Jose Luis's studio with a group of painters and sculptors. And I even met another exchange student who was from Spain, who had studied ceramics and was sponsored by some local nuns. And so we worked together and ended up living together after a while. So I stayed there about a year and a half, learning the traditional technique that Jose grew up learning. So he had grown up in a family of potters that made ware for fermented corn beer called chicha, which is it's boiled in these large vessels that they make, and they use a wooden paddle and a stone anvil. So traditionally, you sit on the ground and you hold a kind of leather hard, like cheese-like stiff piece of clay. It's like a bowl, but it's giant. It's probably, I don't know, 16 to 18 inches wide by, and it's kind of like a circle, really. So it's almost that high as well. And it's about 3.5 inches thick or so. And they make these and they let them set up, and then they sit on the floor and hold that bowl in the base of their foot, in the arch of their foot, and then hold a big flat rock on the inside and then a wide paddle on the outside, and they kind of beat the clay and turn it. And that kind of forms and thins and raises the shape, almost like you would a piece of metal. And once it gets tall enough, they kind of set it up on a broken or some kind of support, ceramic support, and then they kind of walk around it at a coil at the lip. And then these pieces are probably, they're about 30 inches high by, 22 inches wide or so.
Wow.
And then they build a kind of adobe stove around the maybe 6 of these cántaros, and then have a stoke hole, and then they fill the corn masa, like a kind of ground corn and water in there, and they boil it for a good long while. I don't know the exact amount of time, but a better part of a day. And then they take it out and they put it in these larger vessels to ferment. And these larger vessels are probably 4 feet around by 3 feet tall or so, and it'll sit in there for almost a week fermenting. And so in his village, his father had made this kind of production. He grew up learning this, and they produced all different kinds of vessels for serving it and producing the chicha. So
what does chicha taste like? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I thought so too. So I mostly worked in Lima with Jose, but I did spend about 3 weeks in Chulucan, it's his village. And it's a little bit sour, and it's hot there. You have to imagine it was like in the 90s and dry. And as soon as I had some in the middle of the day, I had to sit down in the street. Like I thought it was going to pass out. Yeah. But, it was a really integral part of the culture there in that area. And there were, a handful of potters making this traditional ware, and everyone would buy it and use them up. They would break and have to buy new ones.
Was there any decorative aspect to it, or was it purely functional without?
No, it really was functional. Just, the terracotta without any ornamentation at all, other than maybe a stamp to indicate the studio it had come from. Mm-hmm. So what was interesting is there was an artist named Susan. She's an artist. She was a nun, and her name is Gloria Joyce, and she was a friend and admirer of Susan Peterson, who was an artist and a ceramic historian. She wrote a lot of books about monographs about different contemporary ceramic artists and textbooks, kind of a survey of how to and ceramic history. But I don't know how many publications she had, but quite a few. And so Gloria was really wanting to develop more contemporary ceramics because she recognized the skill and passion of, a lot of the young people. And she would encourage my teacher, Jose, and other kids, his age to make some of their own, sculpture and vessel work and try to enter it into competitions. And I think, Jose really credits Gloria with having encouraged him to become an artist. So he later went on to study in Argentina and Italy, and he really is kind of recognized as one of the foremost Peruvian contemporary ceramicists. He shows his work around the world, and as a teacher, and he also works in restoration at the present time. But
So what brought you to Michigan?
well, it's interesting. We moved here in 2004 because my husband got a job at the University of Michigan, but I actually had been in Michigan for graduate school in the early 90s, from 1993 to 1995. And so it was kind of interesting to come back to Michigan. After Middlebury, I lived in the Vermont area for many years and started exhibiting my work. And finally, one day, my teacher, Bob, said to me, "You have to go to graduate school. You're kind of sort of plateauing out here. You need to do something else." And so I applied and was accepted to Cranbrook. And I studied at Cranbrook from 1993 to 1995 with Tony Hepburn, who had just come from Alfred University and was there at Cranbrook. And that was a kind of intimidating experience because I didn't really have much of a formal art background. I kind of came in through the back door. But he was really encouraging of trying to find people who had lots of different experiences. And I really appreciate the way he carefully selected his department to have, people who are interested in, functional pottery or vessel work or sculpture, mixed media sculpture, and people who were of all ages. We had students, just out of undergrad and students in their, late 40s. And it was, a nice, what's great about Cranbrook, it's only graduate school and our department had 14 students. So it's a big group of peers, and it really, that is kind of the formative experience. And then each studio has a resident and it doesn't have any classes. So each department, decides what the structure should be. So it really does teach you, how to create your art practice,
I like his, one of the things that he told you about cautioning you against creating one-liners or like trendy objects. I thought that was very interesting advice. And so did that inform how you created this body of work, which is so distinctive? I mean, I could pick it out of a whole room filled with ceramics. I would know your pieces.
Oh, I think he always really encouraged us. He admired slow art, is what he called it, something that could live beyond its time. I mean, that was one of the things that I really love about ceramics is just, the techniques that we use are not so different than the ones that people used, tens of thousands of years ago,
Yeah, that's really truly the beauty of it, that while the piece might be created in modern times, it always maintains its ancestral roots. It's very ancient.
I never tire of just a simple kind of vessel, honestly, just the village pot is still something that I think about, in the forms that I'm making of those pieces, that those cántaros that they use to boil the chicha or to serve it from are still pieces that interest me. I've sort of modified the techniques, in my way over time, adding, using porcelain clay because when the porcelain is very thin, it's also very strong and gets translucent. But I like the idea of using this kind of intensive beating on the porcelain clay, which, has a memory, often will kind of deform and, show the process in a way that is just kind of, it brings the kind of humility of those forms and those processes and those people, to the work, I think, that I appreciate,
When you started the piercing of your work, it always reminds me of like a house of cards or Jenga. Like, how far do you take it before it collapses? So have you had a lot of collapsing? And when you were piercing, were you thinking about the secondary shadows that would be created because of the piercings?
Yeah, honestly, it seems like I break them at the very end. It must be like the last hole or something like that when they do break. But it is really an exercise in patience. Sometimes you have to cover them so they don't shrink too quickly, because they shrink as they dry. And that can create tension in the form and cause it to crack if it doesn't dry evenly. The lights, we spent a sabbatical year in Paris because my husband's a French historian, and so we've been so lucky to be able to go and live in France a few times. And I worked with an artist there named Fabien Merillon, and he was just opening a studio, and so together we kind of forged this new space, and he had been making lamps, and it kind of inspired me. I had been thinking about piercing the forms, but it was at that time when I really began to think about putting light inside. And it wasn't until, it was really process oriented. As I began to do that, I started to learn more about the bulbs and the kinds of shadows that they create too. So, lighting technology has been changing so quickly in the last decade or so. LED lights have different filament structures to create that kind of 360-degree illumination, and that creates a different kind of shadow structure with your form. So it's something that I think a lot about now and play with, for sure.
Real quick, and one of the questions we've been asking some of our guests is how COVID impacted you both as a lecturer and, in your own art practice. Did you kind of withdraw into yourself? Did you create more? So tell us how COVID and the pandemic influenced you.
Oh, it was incredibly challenging, Larry. So I've been a lecturer at the Penny Stamp School of Art and Design at the University of Michigan now. This is my 11th year, and without them being actually able to see what they're making was really challenging. But I think, there's been some good things. I ended up recording a lot of demonstrations, which I think the students really appreciate. Having a robust website that really is accessible to them, that they miss class, they can go back or they can watch something again. So that was really helpful. And then, we did actually meet in person. We were only really out the very beginning of COVID from, March to the end of that first semester. But we did meet in person or a hybrid kind of format with, lots of modifications. But we really appreciated that time together, I think, and there wasn't, too much contagion, I think, in those moments. Well, who knows, but, it also gave me some time to do more research. I want to shout out to the Ceramics Materials Workshop. They offered their online ceramic chemistry classes to us for free. So we were able to offer that to our students, and I've been using that again and again, and I did lots of glaze research and clay research to try to help some of the problems that I was having with warping with my clay. But it's been a really wonderful addition to our community, and I just finished a crystalline class with them, and it was really...
Those glazes are so wonderful.
It's amazing. And it feels so empowering to know more about the chemistry. So,
well, Kate, we want to give you an opportunity to tell us about a website, how people can find your work online, maybe get in touch with you or however you want to do that. And any exhibits or things you have coming up, like later in March or April or later this year.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Larry. So I have a solo show that opens on April the 22nd at the Signature Gallery in Atlanta, Georgia. And then I'll also be participating in the New Orleans Jazz Fest Contemporary Craft Section on the second weekend of the fair this year. So I'm busy working for that, trying to get everything all ready. But I have an Instagram account that's Tremel, Tremel, Kate, Kate. And my website is just my name, katetremel.com, so you can see more of my work or get in touch.
Very good. And we'll have a link on your picture that's on our website, and it will take you right to the website. Kate Tremel, thank you so much for coming on Art in the Air and sharing your entire journey and experience with our audience.
Thank you.
Thanks, Esther. Thanks, Larry.
You're listening to Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM, and on WVLP, 103.1 FM.
We would like to welcome Nick Orb-O-vich, Sonny Garner-Orbovich, and Melissa Bohacek to Art on the Air. Nick's accolades are tremendous, and his highly acclaimed career spans a wide variety of musical styles and genre. He is a violinist and also co-founder of the Michigan City Chamber Music Festival. Sonny is co-founder of the music festival as well as the education director. She co-founded the Michigan City Ecumenical Community Children's Choir and is founder of the annual Children's Choir Institute. Melissa is the development and marketing officer at Paladin. Paladin advocates for children and persons with disabilities. Thank you all for joining Larry and I on Art on the Air. Aloha and welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Well, we'll start with Melissa because you're new to the show, and we've had Nick on before. We haven't had Sonny on before, but we actually want to ask you some questions just about you, your personal background, then maybe just a brief thing about what you're doing there at Paladin. So, Melissa, how you got from where you were to where you are now. Tell us about yourself.
Oh gosh, how does anyone get from where they were to where they are? It's a whole story. Well, the short version is that I worked in Lake County for quite some time in the aging and low income arena. I loved that. It was really great. After the pandemic, though, I kind of decided that I'd like to focus a little more closer to home. So I left my job there after 15 some years and then found Paladin. What's really great about Paladin is I'm a mother of an adult with disabilities. And so as I was looking for opportunities to grow and kind of lend my expertise in marketing, I found this great organization and then found out that we do so much for the community and really sort of fell in love. And then Nick and Sunny and I have known each other for many years. I think they knew my sister even before they knew me. And when we sort of figured out that we were all in the same place and had an opportunity to collaborate together, we were all on board, all in. And they've already done a few things at Paladin, bringing music and art to folks who really can use it. And I'll get into that a little bit too, but just on the surface, our folks maybe haven't been exposed to this type of collaboration, this type of music, and it's been really eye-opening and wonderful.
Melissa, I want to dial you back a little bit, though. We want to know about your origin story. So, like, where you grew up, schools, things like that, that kind of thing, too.
Got it. Okay. All right. So we're going to get a little more personal. So I am a twin. I grew up in rural Ohio. And so those who know and love rural Ohio, it's a lot like rural Indiana. Not too much, but when my sister actually moved here to Long Beach, and I was visiting, and I fell in love with the area, the lake. I mean, my goodness, people come here for vacation. I thought I want to live where there's a lake and a dune and sand and kind of not landlocked in Ohio, although I'm a Buckeye for life. Graduated from the Ohio State University, which I get a little guff for up here, but that's okay. My degrees were in English and psychology, which, made me the master of everything and nothing all at the same time. And so I loved the reading and the poetry. And so I stayed in Ohio for quite a while until, again, I visited my sister, the lake, the sand, the dunes, the community. It really reminded me of a place where I grew up, but also kind of an opportunity to live a new dream. And then my sister had a baby, and it was all over. I just put my stuff in the Camry and drove up and then started here. Yeah, I met my husband at Labor Days in Michigan City.
So now you are part of Northwest Indiana. Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about, I know we've had you on before, but just kind of remind the audience outside of the intro a bit about your background, and we'll also move on to Sunny after that. And then we'll talk about the collaboration here.
Oh, yes. If I would have gone into everything that Nick has done, I would have taken up the whole show just with that. So
I never know where to begin. I was born in Queens, New York, but we moved away from there while I was still a little boy. And I actually grew up in Steubenville, Ohio. I'm also from the Buckeye State, Melissa. So went to college in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Carnegie Mellon and Duquesne University. And then I got my master's at DePaul University in Chicago. And I've been in the Midwest ever since, and that's been about 30 years. Lived in Michigan City with Sunny for about over 20 years now. And we started our family there. And I've been keeping my career as a concert violinist and director of the festival and with the South Bend Symphony Orchestra for pretty much that whole time.
Very good. Duquesne University, were you part of the Tamburitzans?
I was not, but I knew very, very well. I did audition for them and did get accepted, but the schedule of trying to become a concert violinist was too intense, and I still keep in touch with a lot of those fellows. Yeah, they're fine organization.
Sunny, tell us about yourself.
I'm from Kansas. I went to I went to Wichita State and got my degree in painting and drawing. And then years passed, but I always had a very deep interest in music, and I played the viola. I took lessons, and there in Wichita, we have a nice symphony in Wichita, the Wichita Symphony, and I took lessons from one of the violists in that symphony, and just always treasured in my heart a great love of great music. And so when I met Nick and he began talking to me about this, and I got a certification in teaching art after years passed, and was in a public school teaching career when we met. So I was just always in love with great music. And when he told me that he wanted to start a festival, I fell in love with that idea. We were already married, but I fell in love again, and just like a dream. It's a wonderful dream come true to be able to bring great music to just the kind of people that I grew up around, people who deeply appreciate having these wonderful musicians come to our small town and play concerts that are truly splendid, spectacular.
So, Sunny, back in Kansas,
Yes.
was your family artistic, and how, can you describe yourself as an elementary school student and high school student in the arts? What were your arts experiences?
Well, they thought that music lessons were important. That was just a very middle class value back then, having a piano in the home and everybody taking piano, getting a basic, something that they couldn't have themselves growing up in the Depression. So it was just, de rigueur, it was expected. We were, my dad was a teacher. So no, we didn't have any artistic interest at all. They were kind of blown away by the depth of my interest in the orchestra and in art.
So did you have visual arts in school? Did you gravitate toward it? Because I can tell you, when I went into your classroom, all I could hear about was Miss Geo, Miss Geo, Miss Geo all the time.
Well, yes. By the time I was in high school, we had art. It was really, really nice art department. 2 art teachers at a high school. I don't know if that's considered normal now, but one of them, there was such freedom in that art classroom. We had the Beatles and all kinds of rock music playing, and it was a real hotbed of all kinds of naughtiness. But it was wonderfully free. It was there was clay, art, sculpture, just anything you wanted to do. More freedom than I would be comfortable with giving any group of children at this point in my life.
Well, Melissa, I think back to you. I think we want to talk about what you do and what Paladin does. Tell us a little bit about that before we get into how you guys are collaborating. But tell us what the mission is there, and how you're involved with that and everything.
Okay. Yeah. And Sunny just reminded me, my family, my parents aren't around anymore, but I appreciate them and what they've given me. And my background, we had a piano in the home. We did the hand choir at Bell Hand Choir at church, and all of that was very, very much like she said, a kind of Midwest, middle income kind of thing that was something that was important to them. So I was thinking of back, she was taking me back a little bit, as painting those pictures of my childhood too. So I want to just appreciate that. Our Paladin, it's just this amazing organization that helps people care for individuals. And really it is, we were talking about it this morning, it helps individuals who are even in prenatal care. So we can take individuals who need help getting to prenatal appointments. So we have a transportation department. Somebody was, I was a little distracted, I apologize. So for our transportation, we are moving, aiding people in mobility, and individuals who perhaps they don't have a car right now. Perhaps they need to get to a dialysis or an important medical appointment. Perhaps they need to, travel to see a loved one. We have that service for all of LaPorte County. We also have our children, and Sunny is, already familiar with our children and the children's choir. Those individuals, the little, from infant to 4 and 5-year-olds. We offer early childhood education experiences for them. They come in 7:30 to 4:30, and they have real curriculum that we work on with those, with those little kids. And then we have our adults with disabilities, and we offer just a variety of supports. And the goal behind it is really to help people to live a meaningful, independent life, have access to supports and community like we all do. So whether that is trips out in the community, because many of them don't drive, opportunities to work at your local, restaurant, or we have individuals all over LaPorte and actually Lake County as well in employment positions. We have day programs where those individuals who maybe need some time off or don't have a place to go to, they've graduated from high school setting, they come here and we have a variety of activities for them. So that's kind of Paladin in a nutshell.
You're listening to Art on the Air on Lakeshore Public Radio, 89.1 FM, and on WVLP, 103.1 FM.
So how did you, so were you the one that approached Nick with the Paladin collaboration, and what made you think of it? Well, other than being close friends with them, of course.
Yeah, I don't remember how it actually started. Nick, did you approach me or did I approach you?
Melissa, you approached us. And,
okay, it was my great idea.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm not sure, but I couldn't remember. But it makes perfect sense. Again, we reach these individuals who may be low income, may have limited access, limited mobility. They don't have the opportunities to run out to the symphony or to go to a Broadway show in Chicago. And what I think is just extraordinary is we have, and I sort of keep thinking I'm playing around with this, but like world-class musicians in a comfortable setting. Sometimes we just need exposure, but we're a little scared to go into something that may seem a bit intimidating, So if I just think what Nick and Sunny are doing is just completely incredible.
Yeah, they're both treasures to the community. And I read the article on that first concert that started with dancing and included kazoos and the opportunity to ask questions, which is so important to engage with it. But I love just from reading it, the freedom of it. I mean, how can anybody not become engaged with the music then?
So and I was surprised how much they knew as well, how much the participants, the people in the audience, when Sunny was asking questions, they could really pinpoint wind, or we were asking what wind or brass, I think, and really some insightful comments and answers. So that was exciting for me.
Yeah, they were paying attention.
Nick, how does this involve the chamber group? Or is it mostly you and Sonny? But how is the group actually doing? And then tell us maybe about some of the things you have in terms of concerts or events that are coming up.
Yes. It's very important to us to have a very strong educational outreach. And one of the reasons I was so grateful that Melissa had contacted us, and she just had an idea of having us come to Paladin to perform several concerts. And so we just grew from there and grew very quickly. She's now on the Michigan City Chamber Music Festival Board of Directors, and she is incredibly helpful. And so we're going to have our children's concerts at Paladin properties, whether it's Head Start or Imagination Station or the main branch of Paladin on Michigan City Boulevard. And it's very important, to us that we bring in world-class Grammy-nominated Gramophone Magazine of the Year award winners to children's concerts to perform for the children. And that's what we're doing coming up on April 10th. Imagination Station is having an event that week, actually. And we're going to have a string quartet in to play at 9 in the morning for the wee ones at Imagination Station. And then at 11 o'clock, we're traveling over to, is it Paladin, the main location? Yeah, to perform another concert. And one for the wee ones is going to be about animals. The ones later on is going to be about string instrument techniques. And Sonny is going to be very instrumental with the string quartet in describing and kind of setting things up for us. And then come in August, we're going to have 3 more concerts for children, but really they're family concerts. Adults love the concerts just as much as the children. So if you're interested in the schedule, check out our website, which is M as in Michigan, mccmf.org, mccmf.org.
And we'll put a link on our website on the picture that we use. Just an idea from the LaPorte County Symphony. Do you think you might do something like a instrument petting zoo?
Sometime, yeah. Why not? Right now, it's even more important just to get this great music to the children, to get them interacting with the musicians, and yeah, instrument petting zoos have been very common, for generations now. So yeah, and we've had them do that. So
excellent. So Sonny, tell us a little bit more about the educational component. What you're involved with, what ideas you have to bring to the fore.
Well, with these littlest concert goers, it's so exciting to be with them, and to be able to bring, like Nick says, great music to the tiniest of us, the youngest. I don't know. I think that it's very important to show them respect. It's a respect that we give to the youngest, and that will bring them into our world. And to do this, we really have to kind of come down and enter into their world. So I'll be down on their level, down on my knees and on my bottom with them on theirs. And we will start the concert with movement, my favorite, brain gym, and very easy movements, just things that little kids like to do, jumping around, stretching, touching our toes, and asking questions and getting them involved, introducing them to the members of the musical group that Nick and I will bring to their world. Yes.
Those actual experiences are so important, because you can say, oh, piano or violin, but until you actually, and especially when you have these world-class musicians that are in these children's ears or adults, that's where the connection happens. When they see them playing, when they hear them playing, and then that's the time to go, oh gosh, I could do that too, or I want to play that instrument, or it's just like such a beautiful collaboration.
Yes. And there's always a nature connection. Our program is about animals, the animal theme for the little ones. And, animals make noises. So we'll have a song that imitates the noises that animals make. And animals have peculiar movements, so we'll imitate those and just making that barrier a little more, penetrating the barrier between fine art and little tiny children.
So if you can tell us maybe real quickly a little bit more about the relationship here, website, everything like that, and maybe other concerts you have outside of the relationship with Paladin that you have for the chamber.
Sure. Our website, once again, mccmf.org. And we'll be having an updated schedule on there within the next couple days. This collaboration is April 10th at Imagination Station and at Paladin, and it's for the clients there. The next event we have is April 17th, which is a violin and piano concert from Jameson Cooper and Ketavan Badriza, amazing musicians. That's April 17th, 7 p.m. at St. Mary's Church in Michigan City. And we'll have a lovely reception afterwards. We'll have that information up on site pretty soon. The festival itself, our famous 9-day festival, is August 12th through the 20th. And this year, our yearly theme is Many Musics, Many Peoples. And we are highlighting music that's been written by the great composers that have been underserved from underserved communities, people of color, people with disabilities, LGBTQ composers. And we're going to be highlighting a lot of that. And that's our theme for this year.
Well, we appreciate you all coming on Art in the Air and sharing about this great festival idea. Melissa Bohacek from Paladin, Sunny Garner-Orbovich, and Nick Orb-O-vich, thank you so much for coming on Art in the Air and sharing your story and the great idea.
Yes, thank you for being in Michigan City so much.
Thank you.
We'd like to thank our guests this week on Art on the Air, our weekly program covering the arts and arts events throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. Art on the Air is heard Friday at 11 a.m. and Monday at 5 p.m. on WVLP 103.1 FM, streaming live at WVLP.org, and every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Lakeshore Public Radio 89.1 FM, also streaming live at lakeshorepublicradio.org, and is available on Lakeshore Public Radio's website as a podcast. Our Spotlight interviews are also heard every Wednesday on Lakeshore Public Radio. Thanks to Tom Maloney, Vice President of Radio Operations for Lakeshore Public Radio, and Greg Kovach, WVLP's Station Manager. Our theme music is by Billy Foster with a vocal by Renee Foster. Art in the Air is supported by an Indiana Arts Commission Arts Project Grant through South Shore Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. We'd like to thank our current underwriters for Art in the Air on Lakeshore Public Radio, Macaulay Real Estate in Valparaiso, Olga Patrician, Senior Broker, and for WVLP, Walt Breidinger of Paragon Investments. So we may continue to bring you Art on the Air. We rely on you, our listeners and underwriters, for ongoing financial support. If you're looking to support Art on the Air, we have information on our website at breck.com/AOTA, where you can find out how to become a supporter or underwriter of our program in whatever amount you are able. And like I say every week, don't give till it hurts. Give till it feels good. You'll feel so good about supporting Art on the Air. If you're interested in being a guest or sending us information about your arts-related event or exhibit, please email us at aota@breck.com. That's aota@breck.com, or contact us through our Facebook page. Your hosts were Larry Breckner and Esther Golden, and we invite you back next week for another episode of Art on the Air.
Aloha, everyone. Have a splendid week.
Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. You're in the know with Esther and Larry. Art on the Air today. Stay in the know with Larry and Esther. Art on the Air our way. Express yourself through art and show the world your heart. Express yourself through art and show the world